Hello, everybody. Matt Gibiec in here with Dynatrace, and welcome to the third episode of Dynatrace Tips. If you don't know yet what Dynatrace Tips is, it's Dynatrace Transformative Insights for Public Sector. If you remember, this is or if you had a chance to see our episode 1 and episode 2, hopefully you enjoyed them. Today we're going to have episode number 3. Before I actually introduced our today's guest, what I want to start with is I'm going to maybe give folks at least 60 seconds to start joining. And if you are already with us, go ahead and say hi and tell us where you're joining us from. I am currently sitting in Fort Lauderdale. I would like to say sunny Fort Lauderdale, but it's a little bit sunny and a little bit rainy today. So if you're with us, let us know where you're from. And I'm going to introduce our guest in just a minute in here. And as we see our guests popping up already on the screen, but before I let them introduce themselves, I do want to share with you a couple of the data points in here. Today's guests are coming from the 13th biggest school district in the country, with over 183,000 students and 28,000 staff members. So it's a very, very sizable education institution. But with that said, without stealing the thunder for them, I'm going to pass it to Ben and Ernesto and have them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Ernesto Fernandez. Like you said, I have been working for GCPS since 2018. My duties here are I am the automation and monitoring administrator. I am one of the guys in charge of the Dynatrace deployment.
Hi, I'm Ben Cook. I've been in K through 12 industry for a very long time, probably 25 years. I've been with Gwinnett for slightly over a decade. I'm the coordinator of enterprise directory services. I mainly handle identity and previous access, and also help Ernesto out with centralized monitoring.
Awesome. Well, Ernesto and Ben, welcome. And for some of you that maybe didn't catch the name, Ernesto and Ben are from Gwinnett County Public Schools. So that said, I think we have a pretty good conversation that we'll be able to walk you guys through today. And what I would like to really start with Ben and Ernesto is tell us a little bit more about Gwinnett County Public Schools, right? I think everybody thinks that they know what public schools are about and what are the priorities, and you know, we all send our kids there. But when you really think about the priorities of your institution, what are the most important things that you guys have to accomplish day in and day out, specifically when it comes to your IT organization?
Well, in education, you know, we all know that, you know, IT budgets are very small or limited. And, you know, the goal of K through 12 is really educate the students. And with the modern world, IT becomes very important. And since we're so large, we have to be really enterprise ready to handle all the students and all the staff that we currently have. So we really, you know, missions and stuff and priorities really to kind of, because we're so large, enhance operational performance. We have a lot of IT segments across the board, and we're really trying to, break down those IT segments, combine them, and really to improve operation performance.
I love it. And I think the key things I'm going to take off from here is, right, what we try to do is we basically try to deliver the best possible experience to the staff and students in a very complex institution, right? With so many folks that are basically relying on the fact that, you know, the IT and everything that they touch in IT, every application, every environment is up and running and that it's working correctly, right? And what you mentioned at the end is that it's very important to make sure that you know how everything is running. So with that said, I'm gonna introduce the next topic that we're gonna talk about, which is monitoring and observability. And the question I would like to ask about is, in such a complex institution that you guys are working today with so many people and limited budget and limited staff that can support it, How important is monitoring and observability in that space?
It's very important. You know, since we're not a business and to make money, we don't actually lose money when systems go down, but we do lose class time. That is pretty much, you can't make it up. Little Johnny, you know, out in the classroom, technology is not working. It's very frustrating. Or if the teacher in the classroom, you know, technology is not working, or the application is not working, the teacher have to scramble to pick up other lesson plans or find other alternatives to deal with the class, especially if the class of 30 to 40 kids in there, you know, it can be very challenging. So we're here to hope to take monitoring software to help us to be you know, more proactive type of approach to, you know, find problems before it started affecting the classrooms.
Absolutely, that shift from reactive to proactive, we're going to talk about it a little bit more in a second. I really like the example you gave us in here, that when something is not working technology-wise in the classroom, right, you can't make up the time for little Johnny. And it's so true, right? If we think about so many different organizations today and institutions, whether it's public sector or somewhere else, you know, if sometimes the application doesn't work, you know, sometimes we have the ability to just come back and do the task that we wanted to do later. But when that bell rings and little Johnny leaves the classroom and the technology didn't work, you know, they're not able to essentially learn what they were supposed to learn that day. So it's basically a lost time. So again, I think that's super important to really understand that, you know, we really need to make sure that technology is working day in, day out. Now, with that said, so we know the technology needs to work day in and out, but academics is the main reason that you guys are doing what you're doing, and you're making sure that technology is working. You are using monitoring, right? And so the next question would be, when did you guys actually start using any type of monitoring? And when did you realize that in order to really be able to make sure that your IT environment is stable at all times, you have to shift from that reactive to a proactive approach?
Well, over a decade ago, when I first started with Gwinnett, you know, systems are starting getting more complex. We started having multiple clusters. You know, the business side and the academic side says, hey, you know, we want things to be up close to 100% if possible. And just simple, you know, built-in monitoring tools, just not working out for a very small staff, especially when you have tons of servers that you, very few people, you just can't be in them all the time for it. Also, since we're so large, we have, you know, split up between all sorts of IT segments, you know, the network team, the security team, the Active Directory team, the Windows Server side, the Unix side, and the database side, the developers. I mean, I can go on for all sorts of different departments we have here, and they all managed and controlled differently from each other. So with monitoring, we can finally be able to put all those systems into one single panel that we can monitor and help everybody out to say, hey, here's a problem. Who need to go first to determine, you know, to reduce the amount of downtime, and, you know, instead of spending hours trying to figure out which team is responsible for it.
Now, one of the big challenges that we have had since the beginning, before Dynatrace, was the noise. With the application that we were using before Dynatrace, we will get the teams involved on the application, but then after some time, they will start getting a lot of emails about different things that so many of those things they wouldn't really care. So at the end of the day, sometimes we will have a real issue and nobody will be looking at the issue because they thought it was more of the noise. So that has been one of the biggest challenges that we have had since the beginning. We're working pretty hard to fix it, and Dynatrace, since has been helping us fix that situation.
Awesome. So a couple of great things that you guys mentioned in here. Number one, getting that single pane of glass, right? And having all these teams kind of be able to look into the same platform to understand where the issues really are. And Ernesto, I think you said it perfectly, right? If you get so many emails all the time about things going wrong, when you finally get that one email or that one notification about the issue that's impacting, you know, half of your students, you're just gonna ignore it, right? Because you always have all these alerts. So it sounds like the tuning the noise, right, is something that was very important to you, and looks like Dynatrace was able to kind of help you in that journey. Now, you know, getting into that single pane of glass, it's easier said than done, right? So my question, the next question to you is, what did it take to bring in the infrastructure team, the application team, the security team onto the same picture? Now, I'm sure the noise helped because everybody had a lot of noise. So, you know, pitching the idea of consolidating and having just single pane of glass would help. But still, I know how it is. The infrastructure guys like to have their own set of tools, and the application guys like to have their own set of tools, and the security is a totally different story. So what really, you know, how did you guys do it? How did you do it that you were able to encourage all these people to basically move into that single, I like to say, the one-stop shop?
Well, one, that was many years ago, we attempted to do Microsoft System Center Operation Manager. And that project was kind of a failure. And we learned a lot of the monitoring, the components of it in a large enterprise environment. We had a lot of resistance across the IT segment for it. It's like, you're not going to put this agent on my system. You're not going to monitor this, thinking that they can, thinking we're spying on it, or they're going to get in trouble if something happens. And that wasn't the goal. It just came across that. So with money and office politics, and also, you know, some administration changes, we finally to the top and say, look, we need a solution across the board to help you meet your the blueprint, meet the vision and the mission of, you know, this district that the leaders have set. So we said, you know, we looked at all sorts of different solutions, and Dynatrace came across that seems to fit perfectly for us. And with the executives' buy-in across the board, we had a little resistance across the board, but at the end of the day, we sat down and talked to them and say, we showed them, we gave them access, and we showed them we're not here to get anybody in trouble. We're not here to spy on anybody. We're here to put all the components of a specific application together so we all can figure out what is going on with the application. I said, think of the end user, think of little Johnny. You know, we're all here for the kids. It's like, let's think of them. Let's not, you know, start arguing back and forth. Let's put it together. Let's generate some alerts. Most of these alerts will go to the IT staff, not up to management. And that built up a lot of confidence. And a lot of them realized, you know, they can use Dynatrace to help troubleshoot their stuff, make their life easier, pulling logs together instead of them doing the manual way or some other third-party tool.
Another thing that has helped us get the multiple teams involved, because here we are split in multiple teams. Another thing that has helped us is having a single source of truth. It's easier when something goes down. You know, usually on other companies, on so many companies, they like to blame the weakest link. Like when something goes down, the website's not working. Hey, who are we gonna blame? Let's blame the network team, or let's blame the database developer. So using Dynatrace, we have the ability to actually see the issue and see all the components working together, and we can see where is the weakest link and that specific issue. And then we only have to contact that specific department. The other department can continue doing whatever they're doing.
And also, just want to add too is that in education software is not always best developed. They don't really design to be as to work in a large environment. They typically do for the most average school district, which is way smaller than us. So these applications don't scale well. So we have to, you know, all these education software, we have to, you know, try to work across some of these technology platforms and they break often. And so we'll always have to keep an eye on these for it. And hopefully we can provide, better feedback for education developers to say, hey, we're like 1 or 2% of their customers, but we're pretty large. So the question is, let's improve your application and make it work with 183,000 students. A simple web application is not going to handle that many students at one time. Especially through the COVID days, we have learned a lot about, these limits on these applications when everybody's at home trying to get the application at one time.
So many, I'm trying to take as many notes as I can to kind of bubble it up, but so many good points, right? One of the ones that kind of stands out for me is you guys are a lot larger than other school districts, right? Meaning you're using the same applications, but these applications are not always designed for such a huge environment. So really being able to understand how these applications are performing is critical. And what I also got out of it, and I want to just confirm if that's true, it sounds to me like you're using a lot of third-party applications as well. So not necessarily only developed in-house, but also third-party apps. Is this correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
So again, that visibility that in here, an observability platform like Dynatrace can provide into not only something that you develop in-house, but something that your vendors develop, it's probably very helpful. So one follow-up question to that. If it happens so that you find that issue in a vendor's application, right? What does that process look like to actually let the vendor know, right? Because I know that usually the vendor comes back and goes, no, Ernesto, it's your infrastructure. That's why you're having a problem. It's your network. What happens when you actually point out for you that the issue is in the application? Pretty powerful, right?
It is very powerful, and it has really helped us because in the past, it's a blame game. When there's issues, they constantly blame our networks or content filters or just where they pull from a hat. And it's they don't ever take blame for it. With Dynatrace, we've been able to go down through some of the source codes or the code level piece of it and really point out, what the problem is. We have dashboards and evidence and logs now that we all put together and send it to them and say, look, we see the problem here now. It's not us. And we are very firm with that. And they pretty much, once we show them, here's what we're seeing, 9 out of 10 times, they pretty much said, give us a moment. And they come back with about 10 minutes. Yeah, we found the problem. And most likely it's a load issue on their side. They didn't scale for us. That we keep telling them, you need to scale, or they, it's education software. They're constantly, adding features, but not really optimize or, cleaning up their code.
Yeah, to add to that, just another thing that we have been doing. Sometimes the third parties will say, well, the problem is on your side, or maybe on your network. So what we usually do is we using the synthetic test, we create a synthetic test instead of using the local network because we have a SaaS environment. We use one of the AWS private location that you guys have. And then we run the same synthetic test on the cloud. And then the issue happens, that's a super good proof to the third-party vendor that this is not happening. This test is happening on the cloud on AWS, and it's still happening. So that's that's the best proof that it's not on our side. But at the same time, we share all the information, having Dynatrace and all these results. We can share the information with them, and we can so many times we can actually point them to the issue. It's not only telling you, hey, you're having problem just because we want to blame you. We could actually tell them, hey, the issue is here. If you fix it, we're good. I mean, it's that simple.
That's a good point. I didn't think about the recording piece of us going through and say, this is a student account recording all of it. And here's exactly error message the student is getting. And we can provide that video to them.
It's not like blaming them. We actually multiple times we have been giving them the exact issue. We just need them to fix it. It's not like that simple.
Absolutely. This is great. So I just want to kind of iron it out for everybody watching. So what you guys are really doing when a vendor tells you that the issue is on your side, you're running a synthetic test, which for the folks that don't know what synthetic test is basically a simulation of a real user against an application. And you're running that test from another isolated environment that's not inside of your regular environment to show the user that when you do it, the issue is still, to show the vendor that when you do it, the issue is still there. That now proves the vendor that, hey, it's not our environment, that's happening across the entire environment. Wow, that's an absolutely incredible use case for synthetic monitoring, and I think it really speaks into the reactiveness versus proactiveness as well. Become proactive with that testing, so you can alert the vendor that the issue is already happening in their environment. Hopefully, sometimes even before it impacts your students or your teachers or your staff, right? This is great. So the next question is, right, so we already know that there were some pains. You guys got everybody into the table. There were some, objections, but you showed them that Dynatrace will be able to help. Single pane of glass is the way to do it. So now that you've been using Dynatrace, and correct me if I'm wrong in here, it's been coming up on a year, right?
A little bit more than a year now. Right?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, a little bit more. Okay, perfect. How does that look like today, right? I know that you already mentioned that your IT staff is not the largest, right? You don't have the luxury of basically hiring, so many different folks. So how does this practice look like today? When we find a problem, when we know something is happening in your environment, who gets alerted? How do they get alerted? And how do you guys dive into this issue?
Well, I will state at the beginning of this entire Dynatrace project piece of it, it was pretty much just me and Ernesto. I mean, we were just small, but over time, it's grown to a lot, and we get a lot of people are asking for, hey, when we get this dashboards, hey, we got this new application, let's add a Dynatrace. They're really excited about it. I mean, first time I've seen that they get excited about an application. We have our CTIO, he's really excited about it. He wants to show the business users. Our beginning of the school year, we have the superintendent looking at a dashboard for it. Was really exciting of seeing how many students are logging in the system and how long it took them doing it. We're getting, just amazing, feedback and excitement for it. It was pretty impressive across the board, and that helped us with across the other IT segments, like they being left out, and now they're going to start coming back and joining us and say, hey, we should join this now. I don't want to be left out for it. And on top of that is we see issues a lot earlier, and we get alerts. I mean, I think there was something early this morning that popped up pretty quickly of anybody working education know how much patching Chromebooks is a big impact on networking. They start pushing out patches, and we saw our network bandwidth went crazy, and Dynatrace started alerting and said, hey, we're about to run out of bandwidth, or these pipes are getting pretty full. So, we started making some adjustments, and, it's like, let's throw the patches for these Chromebooks, so that we can continue on with operations for it, so we don't choke everything for it. That was just wonderful. In the past, we would spend hours figuring out why the network is so slow, or why, all of a sudden things starting to crash, or internet is extremely slow because, we realized, hey, we all Chromebooks, and keep this to state, we're one-to-one Chromebooks. That means every student gets a Chromebook. That's 183,000 Chromebooks. They're not all on at the same time, but I mean, even that, they still a lot of Chromebooks, and they have to be patched. And so that tells you how, and if anyone knows how big those patches are, they're pretty big. So it just takes a lot of our network to patch them.
Another thing is, since we started using Dynatrace, multiple use cases, it's being way easier for us to understand what's going on. For example, when a student is having an issue with a Chromebook, they see an error, let's say it's a kindergarten student, and they see the error. For the kindergarten student, it's really hard to explain to the teacher that they get an error saying this SQL instruction is not working or something like that. And then even for the teacher, who is a teacher, she doesn't have to be a technical person. It's really hard to explain us what's going on. So with the use of Dynatrace, we don't even need them to explain us anything. We can go back to the user session and see what they were seeing, and then we are gonna figure out what's going on based on that error, based on the real error. We don't need the student to explain the teacher and then the teacher explain also. And hopefully, even before the student sees it, we are already working on it because we already saw it using the synthetic monitors. So that's being a really game changer for us.
Oh, that's such a cool story. Like, I don't even, it even crossed my mind, right? I feel like, people our age, when something is not working and somebody asks us what's not working, we go, well, it's slow. And then we say, what's slow? Everything is slow. Now think about a kid in kindergarten trying to tell the teacher that they're trying to do something and it's not working. I mean, that's amazing, right? Having that visibility into using real user monitoring, having that visibility into each individual session, you can now find that session and say, well, the kid couldn't maybe explain what's happening, but I see it firsthand in here in Dynatrace. Now I can actually take an action upon it. That's great. I love all these stories. So to kind of piggyback on the stories, as you guys kind of using Dynatrace now for over a year, it sounds like there's a lot of things that went very well. I know there's another QA story that maybe you'll be able to share when you found a little problem in QA. But there's always things that can go better, right? And then I'm sure there's some folks that are listening into us today that maybe they're going through a similar journey, or maybe they're thinking about it. So from your experience over the last 15 months or so, if you take a look at that journey, right? What are some of the things that maybe you guys would have done differently, or maybe you would have positioned things differently, just to make the process be a little bit smoother when it comes to really onboarding everybody into Dynatrace and then starting to use the platform?
Well, we learned a lot when we tried to implement Operation Manager first, many years ago. We learned a lot from that piece of it. And we took all that and went to Dynatrace. And we still have the same issues of office politics, IT segment stuff. Everybody still wanted to use their tool. And basically, we said, one, we're not going to spy on you. We're not here to get you in trouble. Also, too, is you can still use your tool. We didn't want to replace their tool. As Dynatrace could replace a lot of the tools, I said, let's do this. You don't have to replace your tool. Let's put everything in Dynatrace as well. We will work with you to be compatible with your tool at the same time. That was a little challenge on certain things. We have certain government compliance we have to follow because we have our own police department. So we have to follow some of those, and with their monitoring software. But we found at the end of the day, it worked great. Dynatrace support and services, helped us along the way to get those things working for. But, and once they get into Dynatrace and more they started using it, it was funny that they were so worried about losing, not giving up the application. All of a sudden, they turn around, they get rid of their application. They said, "Well, I'm paying for this. Dynatrace can do this better." But there's still some infrastructure folks that still won't give up their tools. But I get it. It's just, but at least on the top level view, they can use Dynatrace and the logs and stuff. And then for deeper troubleshooting or something, they can use their tools. But we're getting there. Dynatrace helped us achieve centralized monitoring than any other application we tried before in the past. So we were very excited and very, pleased with the outcome so far that's been occurred here.
That absolutely makes sense, right? And that really speaks to a buzzword that we have out there in the monitoring and observability space called tool consolidation, right? We always talk about consolidating all these tools, but we always know that there will always be some folks that are just so used to, they've been doing this for years and they want to kind of keep their tools. So the story event that you shared, basically, you said, I really like this approach. You know what? Keep your tool for now, right? That's fine. But let me show you what Dynatrace can do. And as they saw the power of the advanced observability platform like Dynatrace, they're kind of, by themselves, they learned that they don't need these other niche tools anymore, right? In some use cases, and they can actually go and use that one-stop shop, that single pane of glass as the Dynatrace platform brings into the table. That's absolutely a great story. Ernesto, I'm going to actually target this question to you because you and I had a chance to talk, a couple weeks ago. And I know you mentioned there was, I think it was an issue that you guys actually were able to find in a QA environment. It was something with a database or something like that.
Yeah, we actually deployed Dynatrace on our whole QA environment and production. Part of the goal for that was like when the developers are working on their application and running load tests or tests, they usually do it on QA first. And so what we do is every time they're gonna do, for example, a load test, they let us know, hey, we are about to run a load test on a student's login, for example. What I do, I usually have the QA environment like in user session control 50% capturing. So because I don't want to overuse the QA environment. So what I usually do when they tell me that they're going to do a load test, I increase all the monitoring to 100%. And then they say, okay, let's go. And then they start running. I create like a dashboard with all the key components that are going to be involved on that test, from the servers, the web servers, database servers, the network, everything, the load balancer, everything that is going to be involved on that test in one screen. And then I create a management zone, alertings, and everything. So in case I'm not looking at the screen, but something happened while I'm not looking at the screen, the correct people are going to receive an alert. And what happened is that sometimes, for example, that case that you mentioned, is that they were running a load test on the QA environment to see how many students our system could hold logging in at the same time. When they run it, 15 after the load start, we start seeing that the response time was decreasing significantly. And then Dynatrace was start picking up that the issue was happening on one of the database servers, that the threads were exhausting and all the resources on those SQL servers were pretty much maxed out. And that was the bottleneck to the whole component going slow. So what I did was I shared those screens and the actual information with the DB administrator, and then pretty quick they were able to drill down to the exact query that was taking too long on our SQL servers. We stopped the test for a second. They tuned a little bit. Well, they did something on their end on the SQL servers, and we say, I think we're ready to run it again. We run it again, and then everything went smooth, and we were able to compare both performance and actually send report to the correct people saying, okay, this is what happened on the first test. We saw it. We went the alert went straight to the correct team. The web administrator didn't receive any alert because it was related to the SQL servers. They tuned it, we rerun it, everything was fine, so we were ready to move to production. So that was something that in the past, we would have to get all the teams involved. Once we see the issue, it would take us, who knows, well, we could talk about that, how much time it would take us to find that it was actually an SQL issue, and then figure out the issue, fix it, and rerun the load test. So now we can actually see the whole picture. When we're running the load test, we can see the whole picture in one screen, and then we see a spike, and we can drill down to the exact issue that is happening at that specific moment. And then we can compare, okay, the spike was here. Let's see what else, what is affecting this. And we can actually go down to the actual issue way faster than before.
You guys are just so full of amazing stories. This makes my job in here a whole lot easier. But to kind of piggyback on this story, so prior to Dynatrace, do you think you would be able to capture this issue in a lower environment, or would you most likely see it in production?
What do you think? In the past, it would have been really hard to see it because, like I said, we will have to get so many teams involved. And when we see, we would notice the response time being slower because we will get the complaints or the people actually testing, say, hey, this is taking 4 seconds, 5 seconds to log in. But then we will have to get all those teams involved and start checking at the logs manually and start doing queries here and there to try to find what was the bottleneck. Once we found the bottleneck, we will have to figure it out, fix it, and rerun the test. Now we let the AI and Dynatrace and his magic do that, and then we connect to the right team and let them do their magic, and then we just rerun the test.
Well, before beginning of COVID, when we started going virtual, actually, I think the day we switched to virtual, when everybody started doing home learning and everything for it, it was a capacity issue that we first had, and we ended up being on the news. So from that lesson is, it's best us to, let's see what we can do in non-prod before we hand it out to the end users. Let's go through and test as much as we can. Let's load the software. Let's try to break it. What is the max this software can handle? Because software might work perfect for 50,000 users. When you add 100,000 users, that software just doesn't work, you know, or the design of the infrastructure for that software just not going to work. I mean, we have tons of hardware like load balancers and, you know, across multiple virtual environments and for it. And, you know, we might not scale it right, you know. So, you know, we have to fine tune it and try our best to, you know, get all the wrinkles out before we put it in prod and try to guess it. And we pretty much, most of the time, you know, add about 10 to 20% more capacity when we go to prod, just to ensure that the user has the best experience as possible. You know, it's always it goes to the end of the day of class time and the little Johnny. You know, I don't want them to spend, you know, 2 to 3 seconds trying to log in. That might seem pretty short, but it's a long time for someone to sit there, or even you know, a few minutes trying to log into something.
No, that absolutely makes sense. So you know, keeping kind of that in mind, the next question I have for you: Do you guys have development team at all in at Gwinnett County Public Schools? Do you develop any apps internally, or is it mostly just third party?
It's a combination. We do have some developers in house that do write custom, really say data analytics. Reports, and we do have some customer applications, but they're slowly, some of those applications are slowly moving away. But mostly the developers are done through really for the analytics side of things, data reporting components, because, you know, everybody wants to collect data. In education, data is always important. You know, how is little Johnny's performing with all the different subjects, you know, just give any given time. So, and then we got state reporting that we have to submit to the state or to the federal government. So we do have a lot of developers on those pieces, but things are changing. We're kind of, you know, education market out there. We're finding that, you know, we're getting applications out there that can feed our need that we don't need to envelop in-house. So things kind of changing for that, but even that today at Dynatrace has been really helpful for a lot of the developers as well to do that, some of that code performance review or you know, cleanup that they kind of need for it, because we deal with a lot of old 10 to 15 years old code that, you know, works fine, but until you run under a load, you know, we need something to help us determine, you know, where the problem is.
Absolutely. So again, I think a great point in here, whether it's an in-house developed application or a third-party application, or even an application you don't have access to the underlying infrastructure, right, through synthetic monitoring, looks like you guys have a pretty good, I would say, coverage, right, across the entire environment. And with that said, when we talk about that coverage, if you kind of put a percentage on it, right, you've been only using Dynatrace for, you know, a little bit over a year. And I know it sounds like you're monitoring absolutely production. It sounds like you're also monitoring a great deal of the lower environments. So in percentage-wise, you know, where are you guys today in terms of the monitoring coverage across your entire environment?
About what, 98%?
Yeah, I would say 90%. Like 98%.
Was it 90 or 98? 98%. So I'm going to flex on that number because that's a very short period of time to cover an entire IT environment for 183,000 students and 28,000 staff members that you guys are already monitoring with Dynatrace, right? And I think that really speaks to the simplicity, but also the ability for you to really be able to plug in and get that monitoring data as soon as possible, because if you don't have it, you're flying blind, right? But Ben, you did mention a very interesting, you know, a term for me. You basically said that, you know, some of the apps that you internally are developing are kind of around business analytics and things like that. And I know that we've introduced a new component to Dynatrace about a year ago called Grail. For the folks that don't know what Grail is, it is a brand new data backend to the Dynatrace platform that really empowers us to take the platform to the next level in terms of data storage, data ingestion, and data analytics. So my question to you would be, first of all, are you guys using any of the features that Grail delivers? And number two, are any of these connected to the business analytics around your environment?
They're not. I will first say they're not really connected to that business at this moment.
Okay.
But we are using it internally, us, to collect data to provide to vendors and provide to our application owners, and sometimes even to our business users. This is all the data we're collecting. Here's all the logins and so we're collecting all that for forensics and for security, because that's another different topic of security. We'll be here probably hours to talk about security issues in education on it. But so those tools there has really helped us, putting everything together. And I can just sit there and search, and for like DNS logs or DHCP logs, they're across multiple servers. I can go to one place now and search all the logs within a matter of minutes. You talking about gigabytes of logs that we occurred. It just takes moments to, minutes to pull from it. Let's find out, we have to content filters. We need to figure out, what websites and stuff for it. And within a matter of seconds, we pull those logs up and build a dashboard, or we need to search for something, or little Johnny's doing something. I can track his ID number across the entire enterprise and say, where is little Johnny doing? Sometimes in the past it took us weeks or even months to figure that stuff out for it. And Gail has helped a lot with it, especially with some of the, we can start talking about AI pieces of it for it. That has really helped with us because we're a small staff for it.
One of the things that Grail has been helping us a lot with multiple teams is in the past, we had multiple challenges creating custom metrics. Like sometimes a team will come to us and say, we care about CPU, RAM, disk space, and, the common KPIs. But we will also be interested, instead of every time we have a use case going to the log and parsing the logs and looking for a specific thing, I would like, if possible, they usually request that to us, if you could create a metric based on the logs. And the Grail has been helping us a lot in that. For example, the county wants to know how many teachers are logging in, or how many staff, how many different people. So using the logs, I can create custom metrics and have those metrics working 24/7. I can either put it on a dashboard, or they can call it on time whenever they need. Another use case that we have been using is using Grail. We can correlate the front-end data to the back-end data based on the log. So we can actually see how many users are logging in on the using the user query language on the front-end data, but we can also make kind of the same query on Grail and correlate that data and see if it makes sense. So Grail has been a big help for us. And now we just started not long ago, start using the notebooks. Grail has been a big piece of notebooks too, because in the past I would have to create like a notebook and I would have to save my queries. If I need it in the future, I will have to go back to my notes and, I remember I created a query that I used to use for that. So now with notes, I usually put all my queries there, and every time I need something, I can just go there, see what I used to do, what this query, I can put my notes, everything, and can just, recycle my queries. So you don't have to be always developing new queries.
Oh, I just want to add one thing, Matt. If any Dynatrace developers out there listening to us, it'd be wonderful to integrate with ChatGPT. I'm just going to bring that up. I can just ask the question, say, I want this, and it comes out and give it to me. Just say.
I love it. So I'm sure you guys heard, but we did announce some addition to the Davis AI Apps engine. So definitely going towards that direction. I don't know if ChatGPT is next on the roadmap, but I hope our lab in Europe is listening, or at least they'll watch it on demand. If not, I'll definitely let them know that you share that feedback. That's great. To kind of summarize what we talked about, because there's a lot of things in the last couple of minutes that we talked about. First of all, notebooks. If you guys are not familiar, notebooks, this is what Ernesto was talking about, one of the brand new apps added into the application launcher in Dynatrace, where you can actually, like Ernesto said, store your queries, so you don't have to have additional nodes where you kind of store that data. You can also directly run it from them. So super cool application that is now exists in Dynatrace as well. But I am going to challenge you guys a little bit, because I asked you about business analytics, and your initial answer, Ben, was that you're not really doing it. Yet I think the examples that you gave us are pretty close to the business analytics, right? Really being able to, I think you mentioned that your superintendent was looking at Dynatrace dashboards and things like that. No, I think there's definitely business data that you're tapping into, right? Maybe not necessarily business analytics might be too strong of a word, but sounds like you're definitely tapping into a lot of that business data, looking at the loggings, also the security data, kind of looking at what the users are doing, seeing if there's any malicious activity happening in your environment. So you were really able to expand, right, on your monitoring to so many different levels, it sounds like to me, right, throughout adding Dynatrace to your environment. Now, the next question, I know about 15 minutes left. Guys, if there's any questions for the folks that are watching us, you have about 10 minutes or so to ask those questions. If not, you can always reach out to us, offline, and maybe we'll be able to get you to talk to Ernesto and Ben, but I can't promise it. So now is your time to ask the question. Now, with that said, though, a couple more questions that I prepared for today. When we talk about this journey to advanced observability and then tool consolidations and kind of having this one-stop shop, single pane of glass, once that finally happens, there's definitely business, right? Especially in an education institution, your politics is involved. You have to measure somehow whether the investments that you made is paying off, right? What is the value that we're bringing in? Were we able to change things for better? So what are some of the things that you guys are doing with Gwinnett County Public Schools to measure that value, to measure that success, and kind of report to the business and say, hey, before Dynatrace, this is what our life looked like. This is what the life of our users looked like. This is what it looks like now.
I could probably think of a few things we're doing. One is measuring, the downtime. Before Dynatrace, what was the downtime? How long it takes us to, recover from it. And then we compare it to what after Dynatrace is. It has the downtime, decreased, and how's the, recovery time when something does occur for it. And, we can provide that data to up top and say, hey, we're able to we're trying to reach your goals of, those multiple nines that you kind of requesting for. And then we look at there's customer service surveys and going out and visit the schools and listen to their feedback. And anyone that works with teachers stuff, they were definitely very vocal, and they would love to tell their opinion to us. Go back and actually go to the classroom and listen to what they're saying, and they said this has been great. We even from the parent side of things, feedback coming from them, saying, hey, will Johnny be able to do this technology stuff at home? It's been great on it. Things are, working great. So there's, statistics that we see on the behind the scenes of successful that we can bunch it together, run some math through it, and put a nice report and show it to the top and say, hey, here are the numbers. We are improving stuff to meet your mission and your vision for a district for it. And I will say this. I mean, as we have improved, we're not quite perfect. There's still a lot more room to grow, of course, on it. But this is really exciting for us to come to talk to y'all about this, and hopefully other schools can really take advantage of this for from what we have covered, because it really has been very successful for this on it. Coming from an engineering background for it is having complex systems across the board, having them to talk together properly, how to see everything together with this one little single pane of glass, and get all these teams involved in it to work together. Kind of force everybody to work together. And you get a little alert on the phone, and alert on the phone or on the screen, and it's like, let's work together to solve this. And it has been forcing a lot more, and instead of just, oh, it's not me, send it to somebody else.
That's awesome. And then you kind of follow up on that question, right? So that's really helpful to understand how you're measuring it. And obviously it sounds like you have some vocal users in your environment, specifically the teachers, that can definitely tell you whether the performance of the applications have improved. But along that side, specific question to you, Ben and Ernesto, about your life now in the IT organization at Gwinnett County Public Schools. How has your life changed, or your day-to-day job changed, once you have the Dynatrace platform in place?
I think it's been, from my previous experience, I'm not going to say the names of the application that we used to use before, but it's been day and night, at least for me, that, well, Ben is always fully involved on Dynatrace too, but I think the biggest help is being able to promise 98% promise that we will know the issue before it impact the end users big time. So that's been my goal, and we have been working really hard finding out the challenges that every single team with the what we saw has, to try to start working on those challenges, and hopefully being able to not only fix those challenges, also know the issue before they become a bigger issue and impact the end users. From my point of view, that's what Dynatrace has been helping me a lot. The other thing will be the noise. Now with Dynatrace, the management zone, the alerting profile, the integration with other applications like PagerDuty, ServiceNow, and stuff like that, we are still working pretty heavily on that. But the goal is to, every time we have an issue, we bother the right person. So I don't want everybody on our team receiving all kind of emails. If you are at the database receiving a web server problem or anything like that. So we're working really hard to the point that when you receive an alert, please look at it, because it's going to be 100% related to you or your team. And that's part of our goal. And Dynatrace has been a big help. And like Ben said, there is still a lot of room for improvement. We have still a lot of tasks pending, but we're working on it. Hopefully soon we're going to be in a better place.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, the quality of life of being on the support side of things is the reduced amount of tickets. You know, if you ever worked in IT, the amount of how large we are, just imagine how many tickets we get. And so, you know, we can reduce those tickets accounts, less work for us. I can do work on projects. I can work on other things, and then constantly trying to troubleshoot and spend time with troubleshooting or building RCAs, we got tools that can do all that, help us to do all that for us. And, probably need to run some statistics, but I'm pretty sure that we have reduced the amount of tickets being submitted since we got Dynatrace, because, we're catching the problems before it gets reported. So they're not going to put a ticket in because it's been fixed. So that has a big impact on quality of life. On me, on my side, and my other colleagues and stuff is, they have to spend all day on these little tickets and try to troubleshoot things. We catch it beforehand.
That's awesome to hear, right? So I know we always focus on the users and how an advanced observability platform like Dynatrace can help your users have a better experience and things like that. But I think we too often forget about you guys, the operations, right? The folks that have to fix the issues when they happen. And I love, Ben, what you said, that the quality of life definitely improved, right? Through reduced number of tickets, and as you said, through a lot less noise. So now your median time to detection and the median time to the resolution, right, which are the two very important metrics I'm sure you guys are looking into, essentially are improving. And I think that's awesome to hear, right? Especially for me, I've been with Dynatrace for 5 years now, and I still drink the Kool-Aid. So hearing the stories from customers is the best thing that can ever happen to us. Now, with 5 minutes left or so, there's just one question that I'm gonna end up with. And we talked about what you guys have been through. We talked about where you guys are today. We talked about the success. We talked about a couple of the challenges. So what I'm interested to hear and kind of close this conversation out with is, you definitely said there's room for improvement. So what is your plan for the next, let's say, 12 to 18 months? Right? What's next on the roadmap? What else are you guys trying to improve? What else are you guys trying to focus on?
Well, one will be probably train the application owners, get them more involved, get them up to speed with Grail and learn DQL, and get them to using the application more for it. I mean, they use it, but I would say, are they really using it? Let's get them to start taking advantage of the stuff that we're collecting for it. Let's getting more involvement with, you know, the content filter logs, firewall logs, and those are the challenges that, I mean, since we're so big, those are millions of logs per second, and we just gotta, you know, work through those and ingest those, and so, you know, and build useful and usable dashboards, you know, and know our users when you build this. I mean, not everybody knows how to, you know, monitor the CPU usage on a Linux box versus a Windows box. You know, so, you know, you don't want to send those metrics out to certain people. You know, some people just want if the application up and running. So we got to learn to build, you know, better, useful dashboards, and the next steps that we need to probably talk about is more alerting. You know, let's start to build who's going to get the alerts, even through after hours. So there's still a lot of processing stuff we probably need to go beyond this, but the first step was us to get the data to Dynatrace and see what it can do. It's proven itself over and over time. And the next step is just really just us to go forward with now we got all the data, what's next? And it's just to build useful, you know, let's take advantage of it. Let's start improving our system. Let's start, you know, helping architecting and one of the cloud stuff coming on board for different multi-cloud for, you know, Dynatrace supports all of them, and bringing them in-house to help us with, you know, with the cloud, hybrid cloud stuff. We bring those in, and, you know, in the near future for it. So it's been, you know, we've been really, really pleased with it. So, but I still, like I said, a lot of work, you know, getting more logs in and training the applications owners for it.
Also now, like Ben said, we're getting more people involved. We have been working with some of the teams, not all the teams yet, but those teams that we have been working for, they are sharing their experience now with other people. And they say, hey, we were able to see this in Dynatrace. We were able to capture this or fix this using Dynatrace. So now we're getting more and more requests from other teams that are going to include other applications. That's what we want. We want everybody to get on board with Dynatrace. Our goal is to collect their challenge, the stuff that they're looking to see and the stuff that they're looking to fix, and hopefully we're going to develop the solution for them.
Absolutely. So this is great, right? Still ongoing process. A lot of great stories already that you guys have been able to achieve, but now you're really spreading your wings, right? 98% coverage across the entire environment from the monitoring perspective. Now you're reaching out to the users, doing the enablement, making sure that, you know, really provide them the same capability into diving into the platform as you guys have. So your quality of life can even improve more. So maybe you guys don't have to be on every call and every bottleneck that is being found in your environment. Now, with that said, I think we're at the top of the hour in here. So I really wanted to thank Ben and Ernesto and Lil Johnny, because Lil Johnny was used a lot in our conversation here. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Again, Ben and Ernesto from Gwinnett County Public Schools. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for a great conversation. I hope everybody has enjoyed it. And if you guys want to at some point get to the same level that Ernesto and Ben are with, you know, your quality of life and the operation side of things, and you are part of a public sector agency or public sector institution, there is a link that's flowing below. Definitely go ahead and click it, get into Dynatrace. You can take a free trial. You can contact us. Let us know what your problems are, and hopefully we'll be able to help you the same way we help Ben and Ernesto. So Ben and Ernesto, thank you so much for today, and I hope to get you guys soon. Hopefully next time we'll see each other in person. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, man. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.